We are very excited to welcome an amazing dancer, choreographer, creative director, and teacher to the show, Marty Kudelka. Marty has worked with everyone from Janet Jackson to Pink to One Direction, Jennifer Lopez, and of course, his long-standing relationship with Justin Timberlake. Marty, welcome to Just Dance. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a minute.
Yeah, too long.
Yeah. I get
So,
nervous on these things, by the way, you guys. I like to talk in real life, but this makes me nervous.
You are going to be just fine. So, T, let you start with all the magic. Go ahead.
we'll be kind and gentle. So what I like to do, my first question always is just because so many of us, even though we've arrived at the same place, it's like everyone's path is different. So just kind of tell people like I know you're from, is it Houston?
Dallas.
Dallas. Okay, sorry. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys, um, so tell us about just like what made you start dancing? What was your draw to it? And how did that all happen for you?
It's a long story. I'll try to keep it somewhat short, but and you play a big part of it, Tina. Um,
Right?
uh, yeah, I don't know what you know about this story or not or whatever, but this is really cool. I mean, I was introduced to just dance in general when the movie Breakin' came out in like 1984. I saw that, I wanted to do that, so I started doing it. But in Texas, it was just kind of a fad. So it was lasted about 2 years. We didn't know it kept going on East Coast, West Coast, and so I did that for a couple of years, got out of dance, and then when I got in middle school, I kind of like I was one of the only white guys that was kind of hanging around at the dances and kind of listening to hip hop and R&B music. And before you knew it, I saw like a bunch of people dancing, and I was like, I kind of know how to break dance a little bit. So I like got in the circle, and before you know it, I'm like the party, and everybody's tripping out because a guy is dancing.
Right.
And that turned into literally like the next day, and I'm in middle school. The next day, people like guys start coming up to me and asking like, "Hey, will you teach me how to dance? That was pretty cool." And I was like, "Yeah, if you pay me." And so I started hustling like in middle school. I started kind of teaching. Yeah, like it was kind of, I didn't make a lot of money. Like I didn't even make money really. People would pay me in like food and stuff. It was middle school.
But how did you know to even like ask for that? Like I was always doing the talent shows and never not didn't cross my mind once to go, hey, yeah, like pay me for it. Like that's
Yes, yeah, I do everything backwards kind of. Like I literally I taught class before I ever took a dance class. And yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and it just something, I don't know. I just was like, yeah, I think I can teach you. And I was confident, and I taught these guys who couldn't do anything a little something. And then that kind of went away. And then all of a sudden, like I was 16 years old, and then a talent show happened. And like me and a girl did a dance routine. I made it up, and we won the talent show. And I was like, oh, maybe there's something here, but I didn't think I could do it, like make a living.
Right. Right.
But then I started paying attention to music videos more, and seeing you guys, and If was a huge thing. Of course, before that, Rhythm Nation and Thriller and all that kind of stuff. But I would do my homework reverse then too, and I would go back and watch like Fosse stuff, and Gene Kelly and all these guys, and I don't know, I fell in love with it, but I didn't know what to do with it. So then I said, you know what, I'm going to try to teach class again. But I went to the first studio, and it was Tiffany School of Dance, and I said, can I talk to Tiffany? She said, yeah. I said, hey, my name is Marty, I want to teach like class here, could I teach a class? And she was like, what do you teach? And I was like, dance, duh, like what are you talking about? And she said, well, can you like, because there was no hip hop at that time, in the studios.
Not a tip.
So yeah, this was like 19, I don't know, 90 or something like that. So I said, well, let me show you. So I showed her a routine. It was like to Bobby Brown or something, like every little step. And she loved it. So she said, okay, that's really cool. Cause you can come back and teach, but only if you take a class. And I was like, well, I was too cool for that. So said, no way, no way. I ended up finally just saying, all right. I came back like a month later. I took a jazz class. It was awful. Like she said, we're going to go across the floor. And I thought she was talking about running across the floor. Like it was bad. They start doing PK turns. I'm like, are they talking in a different language? Which they were. But I fell in love one way or another. And then all of a sudden, I'm teaching a little class at 16. I'm took a little class, but I knew I didn't want to do that.
Mhm.
And I I started going out. I know I was kind of young, but I started like, there was like teen clubs around, and Teresa Espinosa, of course, she's from Dallas as well.
Right.
I don't know if you remember Roger Lee, but Keeley, there was a bunch of us, Jason Wright, there was a bunch of us that came from at the same time.
That's
And
right.
we all kind of found each other at the same time. And once I found those guys, they're all a little older than me.
Mhm.
I like was instantly like, this is what I have to do. And they were already way ahead of me. You know, they were already studying you guys and, you know, the Fatimas and, Jamie King and all these people. And so I just fell in love with them. I dropped out of school at 17 and said, like, this is what I want to do. I finished my last 2 years of school in like 2 months. I like had a mission, like dance, this is my new goal. And then at like from 17 to 24, I basically trained, taught. For the longest time, I taught like 25, I averaged like 25 classes a week for like 5 years, which was so crazy.
That's a lot.
But the best training ever. Like I didn't have time to take class, but I was kind of taking my own class.
Yeah.
And then Roger would get a job, and all of a sudden, you know, he would hire me. So after hours, we're going to go dance at this club. So then I have to learn his stuff, which is also like taking class a little bit. And we just kind of started getting, I made a huge improvement and kind of caught up with these guys a little bit. And then I said, well, the next step I think is to go to LA. And this is weird that I'm telling you this, but I literally would like watch you guys who I was influenced by, and like, I want to do that. And I feel that I can do that, but I feel like, why do I want to do exactly what they're doing? Because our stuff looked exactly like your stuff. Like, and I was like, why? Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And we knew all the routines but I was like, why? Well, that's cool. And I want to do her stuff like as a dancer, but I also want to choreograph. So I kind of methodically thought like, well, what do I do good? And like, I thought I listened to music well. So I started picking apart music and choreographing the way I choreograph now, like way back in Dallas, like before anybody ever saw anything cool. But just on kids. And it kind of helped me like mold out again what my style is now. But the big step was coming here to LA. And so I started traveling out here. I know I said I'd keep it short, but
No, I love it.
I knew I had to come out here, so I just started coming out here like once a week. I'm not once a week, once a year for about a week.
Okay.
And I did that for like three years. And then 97 came around, and you had the Velvet Rope audition.
Right.
And do you remember that I auditioned for this? No? It's so long ago. Yeah, no, I mean, it's 25 years ago, 26 years ago.
It was forever. I don't even know.
Yeah, so
Yeah, because because I knew Teresa at that point. So I know I knew you and Keeley and Jaybird, all of, yeah.
Yeah, but they all lived here. I didn't live here. So
Okay.
I just flew here, like saved money, flew here, auditioned. I got to the end. I got to dance for Janet. I did okay, but I was definitely not ready for it. Like, you know, being in a room with Tice and Gil, and, you know, I knew who some of those guys were, like Brian Friedman. I didn't know his name, but I knew who he was, and I'm tripping. So just to be in the room was crazy. And you know what saved me is you had a an axle in like the callback. You had an axle in your combo. Do you remember that?
Um,
It was to the right, and it saved my life for sure, to the right.
yeah.
And the only way that I knew how to do it is because Roger, and it was from a job, like, you know, and so when you put that in your combo, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna save me. This is like one technical thing I can do.
Right.
And it did. Like you cut so many like hip hop guys after that because they were flailing in the wind. And yeah, that saved me. But I got to the end. I think we may have like gone out to eat or something like at Roscoe's. I'm being a fan, but like
Probably.
afterwards with Teresa and all of us, and maybe Rob was there. And it was just a cool moment, cool life experience. I met Terry Bixler randomly. He didn't offer me a job. He just came up to me and gave me a compliment. Like, yo, man, where are you from? You're really good. And I had no idea who he was, and which was probably good. And I was like, yeah, man, thanks. So what's your name? And he said, Terry Bixler. And I was like, oh, cool. It didn't sound familiar. And then he was like, yeah, I'm opening a studio here. If you ever move out here, you should come teach. And I was like, yeah, man. And he gave me his number, and he was the first person I called, and I ended up teaching for him when I moved here. I still know him to this day. Great guy. Sucks to play golf with, but yeah.
Oh, I've heard.
Yeah, he's a maniac. But I go back home. I'm back in Dallas, and then we find out Teresa got the job, and then we were all woohoo, yeah, this and that. And then she calls me one day, and she's like, "Yo, I think that you're up for this job. There's like a few of you guys left, but I guess she was close to you guys. We hear you guys talk, and I'm like, don't tell me this, don't tell me this." And then finally there was a day where she told me this, like, you're not getting it, blah, blah, blah. Y'all might have been together or something. Like, we might have even talked on the phone, like, and you told her, or you told me, like, you should, you're not ready for this, which was totally true. But if you said something like, if you move out here, you'll work immediately. You should move out here, blah, blah, blah.
I
And I
remember.
was like, stuff I say to people now. Like, I said this to somebody last night at class. Like, and you saw something, but you definitely knew that I wasn't ready. And I consider myself a dancer, but I don't consider myself a dancer's dancer. And so I kind of knew, and I was like, man, it was upsetting, but it also gave me like the motivation to say, well, this is not what you want to do. Your dream is to like choreograph stuff.
Right.
So like, why don't you focus on that? And then the next like 2 years, that's all I did. And then I'm finally in 99, I said, you know what, I'm going to move. And I gave myself 2 months. Was not the things to do for whoever's listening to this. Don't do this. But I do like pressure, though, I found out in life. So I gave myself 2 months. I had $1,200, and I said, I'm going to come out here, and whatever, I kept my apartment in Dallas, and I said, if nothing happens, I'm going to go back. I have a car, apartment, a job. And it's been like, on June 6th, it'll be 24 years I've been here.
Wow.